Room 236. I'm here with Mr. Potato bringing you a math lesson today. I've missed this dearly, so we're going to see how this goes. Our goal for your lessons today on Seesaw is that I can use benchmark fractions to help me compare and order other fractions. Benchmark fractions. I drew a little bench here to make you remember it. It's a common fraction you use to reference, as in, we want to use fractions that we're really familiar with when we're dealing with complicated fractions. So, some benchmark fractions that you would likely use might be 1/2. And this would be an example of me thinking of 1/2 in 3 different shapes or forms. On my rectangle, I can think of each of these as 1/2, or just this point being 1/2. I might draw my line in my circle here. This is 1/2, or each is 1/2. And then I can imagine going from 0 to 1. Halfway in between 0 and 1 is right about here as 1/2. And I might color in up, not beautifully, to each of these points. That's 1/2. That's 1/2 for you students that are so good at perfectly coloring in. I'm sorry, this probably bothers you. And then up to this point is 1/2. Some other benchmark fractions you might use are, I'm going to do them in blue for you to remember, could be 1/4. We use that one a lot. Could be 1/3. It could be, we already said 1/2, I'll just write it again, or 3/4. These are going to be fractions that you use in this lesson today. Now, let's think of an example which might challenge our understanding of using benchmark fractions. Let's say I give you 1/6. We're going to do that in brown. Let's say in this example, I'm learning how to teach in this area. It's a little different. Excuse me. So 1/6. I want to think of 1/6 and 2/7. And when I'm asking you to compare, I'm asking you to make a comparison statement with our little circle. And I'm either going to say 1/6 is less than 2/7, 1/6 is greater than 2/7, or equal. Okay, so I need to choose a benchmark fraction, a common fraction used to reference, to think about these because they don't have the same denominator, and that makes it, and they don't have the same numerator, and that makes it really hard for me to compare. So I like to use a rectangle model or a number line. So I'm going to use those two as an example. You might be more comfortable using circles. If so, you're going to use that. Okay, so I'm going to draw my rectangle. And something that's important to note, I'm going to add this little tip on the side. Whenever you're comparing, oh wait, what, Mr. Potato? Mr. Potato just said it. Whenever, thank you, Mr. Potato, whenever you're comparing fractions, compare them with the same size whole. Compare fractions using the same size whole. Meaning, if you're going to get pizza, you're not going to compare a half of a small pizza with a half of a family size pizza because they're not the same size whole. One is clearly much bigger. So we need to keep this shape the same. So I'll draw 2 boxes. Now, in the first one, I need to do 1/6, so I need it to be in 6 pieces. It's not perfect. And in this next one, I need to do 7. Okay, it's got to be slightly smaller. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's kind of right. So sometimes we need to use a benchmark fraction because our drawings aren't that accurate. So if I were to think about these 2 fractions just visually, that might be my first step. I'm going to draw 1/6, and I'm going to draw 2 7ths. Now, if I do that and my drawing is accurate, I'm feeling confident that 1/6 is smaller than 2 7ths. But I'm going to use a benchmark fraction to help me. If I were to use 1/2 as my benchmark fraction, let's say my benchmark was 1/2. That doesn't help me out very much because it's much bigger than both of them. But let's say I'm going to use 1/4. That might be a little bit closer. So I need my 1/4 would be right about here. Ooh. Using my benchmark fraction of 1/4 helps me see that 1/6 is smaller than 1/4 and 2 7ths is larger than 1/4. And I'm more confident that 2 7ths is greater than 1/6. So when you're using your benchmark fractions in your lessons today, make sure you're using the same size whole. Choose benchmark fractions that are close to the 2 numbers and the fractions you're comparing. In this example, 1/2 was too big, but 1/4 was just right. So thank you for joining our math lesson today. Can't wait till next time.